Hello, and welcome to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and welcome back to the Cooperating with Chords segment. We are talking about the Chord Suffix Editor. And now, the Chord Suffix Editor has been described by an industry professional that I have worked with as the most hateful window in Finale. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. It is sort of a pain in the neck to use. In fact, I probably should have called this an advanced level lesson, but the chord suffix editor is something that every Finale user at some point in their career using Finale is going to have to use at some point. So I just decided to call this an intermediate lesson. But it is definitely sort of a hateful thing to use. And not the most hateful, but considering how often you do have to use it, it is sort of it is sort of a pain in the neck. So how to get to the chord definition, the chord suffix editor is go through the chord definition dialog box, and there's a couple ways you can do this. If you have a suffix selected here, you can just press the edit button. It will take you directly there. And that will edit this particular suffix number 25. Or you can press the select button to get to the chord suffix selection dialog box, which will show you your suffix library, which, as you know, has a lot of suffixes in it. And believe it or not, there's 177 that come with the default Finale Maestro font file, but eventually you're going to need a suffix that does not exist, so you are going to have to know how to do this. But once you open the suffix selection box, you can do a bunch of things, including edit the one that you have selected. You can duplicate it and then edit. You can also change the order with a move up and down arrows if you need to. Delete any unneeded suffixes, and we can also create a suffix from scratch, which I'm going to do right here. And when we create a suffix from scratch, we get a blank chord suffix editor. Now there's a bunch to this window, so let's get started with it. The way that this suffix editor works is that you need to type in each individual character one at a time and then press the next button here. So I'm going to create a suffix for sus4, which I know does not exist in the default file. So in order to do this, I have to type in this first symbol box here, S, and then choose next, and then type U, and then choose next, and then type S. This really is the way to do it. And then type press next, and then type 4. So now I have a sus4 suffix, and then we can press OK and select OK, and you'll see that the E sus4 suffix has been created and put into my score just like that. All right. There's a couple other things going on with this, so let's just edit this sus4 dialog box. Now, if you happen to not know the character that you want, so let's go over to this 4 character. Again, you can navigate between each of these individual symbols, but with the previous and next buttons here. This is just exactly how you do this. If you press the symbol button here, you'll get the symbol selection for the entire font set that you happen to be using, in this case Times New Roman. And Times New Roman is an extensive font, so you will see a whole bunch of all kinds of characters that you can choose from. So if you just want to pick a random character here, you can just pick that one, and it will replace that 4 with that funky little character there. But let's go back to 4. The other thing that's going on here is that every single one of these individual characters has its own horizontal and vertical offset value. Now, the horizontal and vertical offset is sort of determined from this sort of crosshair points that you see. So that's why the very first one is set to 0, 0. By default, when you press the next button, Finale will calculate this horizontal position based on the size of the font, which font you're using, and the character that you just entered. So to get from Times New Roman 11 plain from the S to get to the next character, Finale says you need 0.059 inches to enter the next character. And then the next one is 0.135. Now, again, these horizontal offset values are additive, so that's why this is much larger than the previous one, because it's 0.135 from this left-hand crosshair point, right? It's not from the previous character, so that's exactly how this works. And these offset numbers works as they usually do in Finale. So in the horizontal, positive numbers go right, negative numbers go left. In the vertical, positive numbers go up and negative numbers go down. So as you can see, there is a vertical offset, which means that if we want to raise this 4 a little bit, we can put a vertical here of a positive number of, say, 0.1, and you'll see that 4 get a little bit higher. Of course, we can always uncheck the show handles, which will give you a slightly better view of what you're looking at. One of the among many problems with this chord suffix editor is that you can't expand this window and you can't increase the size of the preview, which is sort of annoying because this is very small, as you're probably looking at it, squinting, trying to figure it out, and I'm squinting trying to show you this as well. So again, just another issue with this chord suffix editor. But anyway, so every symbol itself can also have this vertical offset, and just by choosing 0.1 there, you're putting that 4 a little bit higher. And of course, we can always manually change these horizontal offset numbers if we want to as well. So I could do something funky here with the horizontals, where I can change this to, let's say 0.1 for the U. For the next S, I can change this to 0.2. And for the 4, I can change this to 0.3. And what this will give me is a sus4 suffix that's much more spread out in the letters, as you can see, as opposed to the way I had it before, where they're all a little bit more scrunched together as normal. All right, so that's what's going on there. So let's talk about the next thing here with the number and the prefix. Actually, let me create a new one. So with the number and the prefix, so what I'm going to do is just create something here. Next, first parentheses, next. Now I'm going to enter a number, and we're going to check that number. And when we do that, we can also use prefixes with this. And when you check the prefix with option, you get these options become available to you. So you can have either flat, sharp, minus, or plus signs to go in front of this number. And this will automatically put in the flat symbol from the default music font that you're using. So in this case, the flat sign will be an actual flat sign from the Maestro character, even though the 9 is set to Times New Roman 11 plain, right? And it also, when you use these, will calculate the horizontal correctly when you choose next. So I'll choose next and put in my parentheses, and the horizontal will be in the right place for this. And we can click OK. And see this, and there we go. So now we've got this E7 flat 9 chord, which I know exists in the Suffix library anyway, but just wanted to show you how that works. Now, the one thing about using the accidentals as prefixes like this is that these the size and the font of these are controlled in the document options, and it's the same setting for these prefix accidentals as it is for the accidentals for the alternate bass notes and the roots. So changing the setting here will change it in all those places. So in the fonts pane in the document options under the chord sections, we're dealing with the alteration, and you can see that the font here is Maestro 15 plain. If I were to just change this to 8, make it a lot smaller, and apply it, you'll see that it will affect the accidental and the alternate bass note in the root, in the F sharp minor here, but also in that accidental for the suffix. So it's a little bit tricky that you have to be careful using that prefix in that manner. As you see, right below this chord I've already created in this file with the flat 9 and the flat 5 on top of it. You can see that these flat symbols are a lot smaller than the prefix version of that flat symbol. And the reason why I was able to do that is because I didn't use these flat symbols as prefixes. I used these as individual characters. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that. So here I'm going to edit this E7 flat 9 symbol here. Let's edit that. And if I haven't mentioned it, I think I did, every single character that you enter could have its own font, right? So the 7 is set to Times New Roman 11 plain. The parentheses is as well. But let's just say we're going to undo all of this. We're not going to use this number first. Let's actually delete that and delete the parentheses here as well. And start over with the 7 parentheses. Next, and what we can do here is create a flat symbol with the Maestro font. So what I've done is just press the type the B and set the font, and we can find the Maestro font here. There it is, and we can set a size. Let's set this to 20 just to illustrate that we can make it really big. And then choose next, and then how about 9, and next to the parentheses, to finish this off. And so now we have a version of the 7 flat 9 chord where the flat is a lot larger than the accidentals in the chord roots and the alternate bass notes. All right. So again, what I'm doing there is essentially using the flat symbol as its own character and setting the font for it, individually with Maestro 20 plain. Now, again, this sort of points towards the power and flexibility of the chord suffix editor, that every single character can have its own font. I don't have to use Maestro. I could mix and match Maestro with Engraver font or Times New Roman with Arial font or whatever the case may be. All of these characters individually can have their own font, which is, is sort of an incredibly powerful feature of the chord suffix editor, if not sort of, just a lot to keep track of, if nothing else. But I do want to talk a little bit more about how to create something like what I did here with this E7 flat 9 flat 5 chord. In fact, I'm going to create a version of this that's actually E7 flat 9 sharp 5 instead. So we'll go here and we'll create a new one. And I'm just going to show you this so you can kind of see how something like this would work. So we're going to type the 7 first because that's what we need. Then we're going to go to next, and we need the parentheses. And with this particular chord, this parentheses has to have a vertical offset of 0.041. Next, and I'm not making up these numbers. I'm looking at a preset sheet that I have for this to make this go a little bit faster. The next character is going to be the flat sign, so I want the B, and it's going to be in Maestro font, if I can find that quickly here. Maestro font size 10. And let's see, my offsets for the horizontal is going to be 0.142, and the vertical is going to be 0.128, and that's the flat sign. And then the next character is the 9. Now this 9 is going to be not Times New Roman 11, but Times New Roman 8. And the offsets here are 0.18 in the horizontal and 0.1 in the vertical. And next is going to be the sharp symbol. And this is going to be Maestro 10 again. So we'll choose Maestro, if we can find it quickly. Maestro 10. And the offsets for this one is going to be, let's see, 0.142. Again, this is actually matching the offset from the flat symbol. If you remember, the horizontal offset is the same as the flat symbol above it, but the vertical offset will be different, and that is 0.031. That should do it. And then the next character is going to be the 5 Times New Roman 8, not 11. Okay, and the offsets here are going to be 0.18. And vertical 0. And then finally, just need the closed parentheses, which is going to be Times New Roman 11, but the offsets are going to be 0.239 and 0.041. Okay, so that should give us the 7 flat 9 sharp 5. And if we kind of unshow these handles, you can, I wish I could zoom this in, but I can't. You can kind of see that everything is in the right place. And as I go previously through these, all of these horizontal and vertical values are as I set them, right? And so let's just see what this looks like. It should look like very similar to this chord here. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So flat 9, sharp 5 with the parentheses and all the appropriate offsets. So you can sort of see how, creating something very simple like this, or it seems simple, is not simple at all. And I did that very quickly because I had already figured this out and figured out all of those values and wrote them down so I could replicate them very quickly. But, if you're creating your own suffixes, this becomes a huge pain in the neck, sort of trying to, guess at some of these numbers. But, it is what it is. It's sort of how it works. Now, I should mention that the way quicker way to have done that was not to create that chord suffix from scratch, would be to just duplicate the one that exists that has all those values. So in this case, let's do that. So we're going to duplicate this 7 flat 9 flat 5 suffix that I already created and edit it. And so now all of this is set. So now I could do something like, instead of flat 9 flat 5, For me to do sharp 9 flat 5, all I have to do is find the flat symbol here and change it to a sharp. And essentially what I've done is change that to sharp 9 flat 5. Right, so now we have, it's basically a duplicate of this suffix, except I just changed that one character to be sharp instead of flat. So that's really the quicker way to do it, is always to duplicate something that's similar and then just change the one or two things that's slightly different. Now, a couple more things to know about when you create these suffixes is that the order in which you enter those characters is the order in which you need to type them when you type into score. So if you look at this chord suffix editor for that chord I just created, the order is 7, parentheses, sharp, 9, flat, 5, parentheses, right? So if I were to try and type that chord in Finale, I have to type it in exactly that same order. So as long as I know what that is, I'm good to go. E7, parentheses, sharp, 9, B5, close parentheses, and Finale will recognize that chord and replace it with that suffix. If I were to try and type this in reverse, so if I typed E7, parentheses, flat 5, sharp 9, I don't think Finale is going to recognize that. Correct, it's not going to recognize that, even though technically it's sort of the same chord. You do have to type it in exactly the same order that it appears in that chord suffix definition. And then there's one more thing I want to show you in the chord suffix editor here. This one last button here for the set play. Now this is going to tell Finale how to play this chord when it encounters it if you're playing back chords. And the way that this works, it's again, it's very semantic. It's one of these semantic boxes in Finale, is that you get this suffix key number offsets. Now, what this basically is that every single box here is an interval that you can have Finale play above the root. So if they're all zeros, it's not going to play anything above the root. But if you enter 1 in the first box, you're going to get the root plus a half step above the root. If you type 2, you're going to have the root plus a whole step. So you can sort of create intervals this way, and these numbers are in half steps. And actually, these numbers can be -2. So if I put -2 there, the first note that it will play is a whole step below the root, which probably is not all that handy all the time. So for this, let's see, what chord am I defining here? 7, sharp 9, flat 5. Oh Lord, let's see if I can figure this out. So, so for the E7, sharp 9, flat 5, the way we're going to do this is think about the E and then go 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps for the third. Let's do the flat 9 next, which would be 4, 5, 6 above the root. And then let's say we want the 7 next. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 would be the next value. And then if we want to add the flat 9, that's 11, 12, 13, I believe. I think I've got that right. And so this will now play the root, the third, the flat 5, the 7, and the flat 9, if I got that right. Oh, I want the sharp 9, though, so that would be 15, actually, not the flat 9. And we click OK. And now that particular voicing is what will play whenever Finale encounters this suffix. All right. There's another way to do this, which is to use the listen key. And Finale is listening. Please play the root of the chord. This will allow Finale to calculate the key number offsets for the suffixes. So you play the root on your MIDI keyboard, which I just did. You didn't hear it. And then Finale is listening. Please play the chord suffix without the root. So I'm going to be very careful about this. I'm going to play G sharp, B flat, D, and G natural all at once. And Finale calculates it, although it's offset by an octave because I played the root in the wrong octave. But I think if I had done that correctly, it would have done the key number offsets correctly. But you get the idea. Let me try that one more time. Let's see if I can do this. Play the correct root there. And then the suffix, let's see if this will do it. Yeah, there we go. There's the numbers. Although it does change the order, I don't think it really matters, 10, 15 versus 15, 10. You're going to get all of these chords simultaneously. Now, interestingly, if you press the right arrow key here, you'll see that you can add all kinds of intervals. In fact, this will keep going, and And I believe you can add up to 64 intervals above the root if you keep going. So these suffixes can be quite extensive if you really want to in the playback. All right, but in this case I've got this set. We press OK, and then Finale will play this chord with that configuration above the root. All right, so that's how that works. And one more thing, did I skip something in here? Oh yeah, there's just a clear button, which will just clear it all out all at once. So that's all that does. So yeah, so that is the very hateful quote-unquote chord suffix editor. It's again, if you're using chords at all in Finale, you're going to run into having to use this at some point. So hopefully, in this long explanation, I've covered it well enough that you can sort of figure it out from here. But yeah, that's how it works. All right, so thanks for watching. This has been a nice video on the chord suffix editor. And come back, I think we're going to start dealing with the fretboard editor, which actually is a little bit easier to use, believe it or not. So come back for that, and I will see you soon on the next video.